So, do you guys ever pay attention to the World Economic Forum? You know, these lunatics that meet in Davos on a regular basis. So, I've been following them for, a long time. And one of the interesting things that I've come to figure out is that these lunatics are actually trying to create like a global communist superstate, or even worse than that. It kind of looks like they're working on neo-feudalism. Like they have this banner that's like, you will own nothing and be happy. Like that's literally their goal. And so the question is, if I don't own anything and you don't own anything, well, who actually owns everything? Because stuff is going to be owned. Well, so it turns out that the people who are going to own everything in the future are these rich lunatics that are members of the World Economic Forum. And the rest of us are just basically going to be plebs. So one of the things I do is I kind of track like their news stories to see, what these lunatics are talking about and how they're framing their nonsense. And so here's a cool article. I have not watched this video, so this may be a torturous waste of time for us. We asked 4,600 young people about the state of the world, and here's what they said. And so, who do you think are the least informed and least capable people to give opinions on the state of the world? That's right, young people. So let's hear what the young people have to say. By the way, they're keen to take action. Here's what they said. They asked people in 18 to 30 years old in 150 countries. Okay, right? Like, why would that matter? First of all, there's only like 2 or 3 countries on the whole planet that even matter. Everybody else is completely irrelevant. Like, what difference does it make what people in Somalia think about anything? They can't even get their own shit together. Like, literally, the whole continent of Africa cannot get its shit together. So, why would we care what they have to think about anything? Like, we can't even get the people of China and like India to stop throwing their garbage in the ocean, right? So we're going to go ask them their opinions about world affair while they're basically destroying the ecosystem. Meanwhile, they're blaming the United States for all of the pollution. We're the cleanest country in the world. But anyway, let's get on with the video. Okay, this is 11,000 innovators. We want to know their biggest hopes. By the way, one of the things about their videos is they just drag on and on. Okay, hold on. Why is this popping up? 60% of the respondents say they have financial concerns as their biggest worry. Well, considering that the governments of the world, and these are the lunatics that go to the World Economic Forum, are on the verge of creating a hyperinflation, basically destroying the wealth of everyone on the food chain below them. Maybe the young people are right about this one. I just got done cracking on young people, but they should be concerned about the financial future because the governments of the world, with the exception of like Russia, have essentially trashed their own currencies, and we are on the verge of a hyperinflation. So the young people don't have that one wrong. Oh, they see growing inequality as a powerful economic trend, right? So the rich people at Davos that are busy screwing the rest of us, the young people recognize that. Oh, good for them. However, there's rising entrepreneurs that are, that are positive. 59% believe that geopolitical tensions will be the most defining political trend in the short term. So there's a question that doesn't even make any sense, right? 59% believe that geopolitical tensions will be the most defining political trend in the short term. Well, political tensions literally are political trends. That's how political trends get made. So here's my point. Like the World Economic Forum, does all these ridiculous surveys and comes up with all this nonsense that is like utterly meaningless. Like what does this question even tell people? That 59% of the people surveyed know what the word politics means? What you ought to take away from this is that 40% of the people surveyed don't even know what the word politics means. It's terrifying. Half see hope in innovative governance models, right? So half of the people they're surveyed are stupid enough to think that the governments that have been failing us now for the last 200 years are somehow going to make things better, even though they've basically destroyed the whole world, right? Oh, young people are keen to say action. 1 in 3 say they are likely to run for political office themselves, right? So this uninformed generation of nincompoops who can barely read are going to run for political office. 86% see AI as the most transformative technology over the next 5 years. That's correct. AI is going to transform a lot of people's investments into losing positions, because so far the only thing AI is good at is making porn videos and cartoons, and that's about it. Everything else that it does is utterly useless. 2/3 are concerned about the shrinking number of entry-level roles available. So if AI is good at anything, it's actually good at replacing mindless tasks. So if you think your future is going to be working at a hamburger place flipping burgers, that's probably not going to be the case. We have already mastered the technology where robots can do that. And that should terrify you if you are in, let's say, the lower half of IQs, because the people who run the World Economic Forum, they don't care about you. Young people are early adopters of AI, with 60% using it regularly. Now, this is interesting. So I caught my teenager turning in homework that was generated by ChatGPT. And so he had to write an assignment about like the Bolshevik takeover of Russia or something. So I was like, let me see your paper you're going to turn in. And I'm reading it. And I'm like, I knew he didn't write it. Because first of all, AI still doesn't write like a human. It's pretty easy to see when something's been AI generated. But I asked him a few questions about some things that were written in the paper, and he like had no clue. And I was like, you didn't do this, did you? This is like ChatGPT. And he was like, yeah, I use ChatGPT. And I said, the purpose of school is for you to learn the information. And I said, by the way, ChatGPT got half of this bullshit wrong. Anyway, he turned it in. His teacher gave him an A on it. Probably the teacher used ChatGPT to make the lesson. Okay, young people are more connected than ever, yet lonelier than older generations. And so that's interesting. Like my kid is always on his phone, but he never really leaves the house except it's to play baseball. The good news is he doesn't drink either. He's not smoking weed. And so that actually gives a little bit of hope, because social isolation is only a problem if the people you're going to be socializing with will be a positive influence on your life. Well, I can flat out tell you, especially from having been a teenager myself, that most of the things I did as a teenager, I kind of regret, and I probably would have been better off staying at home and not getting in trouble. Let's see, almost half say that rising social fragmentation and loneliness will be a defining feature of their life. And that's probably true. By the way, that's being engineered by the lunatics at Davos as well. They're actually trying to create that. Why? Well, because if you go out with your friends, you're going to have to drive your car, and they don't want you to drive your car because they believe that CO2 is a poison when it's actually plant food. Now, why do they want to get rid of CO2? Well, they want to get rid of CO2 because it's plant food. And if it's easier for plants to grow, that means crop yields go up, which means food prices go down, which means there's more people, and they don't like people. That's the whole point of this environmental push. The environmental push is actually designed to raise food costs higher to starve out the poor people. Now, they don't say that. Well, actually, they do say that. They comment all the time about how there's too much population. They just, kind of go wink, wink when you look at their solutions and figure out that they're all going to slaughter poor people. Climate change is the greatest threat to the world, says 56%. And okay, so here we go. So if you believe like science, the world is like 500 bazillion years old. And so what that means is we've always had a climate, and it's always been changing. If you actually take a look at any of these climate science, you will see that almost everything that they say in the executive summaries is not supported by the data. In general, the Earth would actually be better if there was a 5-degree rise in temperatures all the way around. And so that may be shocking to you, but if you realize that Russia, which is the Earth's largest landmass, spends 6 months of the year buried in snow, even though it is a giant grassland, could you imagine 5 degrees hotter? how more productive that giant land mass of arable land would be. I mean, it would be great. Food would almost be free, but they don't want that because they want to kill the poor people. And so they believe that rising temperatures are bad. Well, guess what? Rising temperatures would actually be good. But what's worse than that is temperatures aren't actually rising. This is another myth. It all depends on where you measure the temperatures. Okay, now they think climate action is an urgent necessity not to be postponed. Right now, why do they think that? Well, because the lunatics at the World Economic Forum have been brainwashing teachers to tell this generation all of this nonsense that's just not true. It's all bullshit. The climate science is 90% bullshit and 10% doctoring of temperatures. And we know this for a fact because years ago, when the first UN climate report came out, WikiLeaks or somebody dumped some emails where the scientists were literally talking about how they were going to manipulate the data. Like, we know this for a fact. It's not even conspiracy theory anymore. All right, let's watch some more of this ridiculous video. They're already influencing market prioritizing sustainable products in which they spend and invest. So sustainability is another whole bunch of crock of baloney. Like sustainability, that's something that you can do forever and ever and ever, right? Well, we're not supposed to eat beef because that's not sustainable, even though we can literally predict how many cows we're going to produce every year, and we can grow them on a certain plot of land, and we can feed them grass, which regrows itself, or we can feed them corn, which also regrows itself. Like, traditional agriculture is the most sustainable practice you could possibly ever have, because that's been the way the whole world has operated for literally hundreds of thousands of years. If there's been life, it's because of sustainable agriculture. So what do these loons at the World Economic Forum want to do? Well, they want you to stop eating beef, and they want you to eat 3D printed nonsense created by Bill Gates and his crazy club of scientists. How does that even make sense? Like, explain to me how lab-made meat, which isn't even meat, is somehow more sustainable than going out and shooting a cow the way people have been raising and milking and feeding and eating cows for literally thousands of years, right? Somehow lab printed meat is more sustainable. Like, this stuff is all nonsense. Oh, young people surveyed were also asked what they thought the priorities should be. 57% said they would create more employment opportunities for young people. Oh, well, that's nice. Actually, they're kind of thinking along the right lines here, but the issue is that they think the government's going to create these jobs, when it turns out that government jobs are non-sustainable, right? So if Davos was actually following its own goals for sustainability, they would recommending that all governments be cut in half and that the private sector be allowed to create work. Why? Well, because private sector jobs only exist if the company turns a profit, and profits tend to be sustainable, where all of the governments in the world, as far as I know, with the exception of maybe Russia, are basically financial basket cases that are filled of people who do literally nothing all day but torture all of the productive citizens. And if we would just get rid of them, probably we'd all be better off. I mean, look at the United States. Trump got rid of hundreds of thousands of federal employees and things got better. Does that make any sense? Not according to the Davos lunatics. 46% would guarantee equal access to affordable education. Well, actually, I'm all for that. I'm not for the government paying for it, though. See, here's the problem, right? Not everybody should go to college. First of all, most of the people in the United States who go to college today can't even get a job in their fields because a large portion of what is taught in college is utterly useless nonsense, right? Like, do you really need a gender studies degree in basket weaving, and should my tax dollars pay for that? Probably not. Obviously, that is stupid. 32% would focus on securing affordable housing and financial independence for young adults. So this is interesting. Only 32%, okay, of people from 18 to 30 years old think it's important that they have affordable housing and financial independence. So what that tells you is that 70% of the people in this age group are so brainwashed with nonsense that they don't even think affordable housing and financial independence is important. And that's at odds with earlier, remember that they said that financial security was one of the number one priorities for the younger generation. But these kids are so muddle-headed that they don't think affordable housing and financial independence has anything to do with that. Why? Well, that's because the Davos lunatics have been running their education for the last, since 1970 or whenever these fruitcakes got together. Anyway, so I hope that was fun.